this time.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Anthony, thank you for joining me on GV Talks.
Very excited to be here, mate. It was on Hamish and Andy. They always used to say, was it long time listener, first time caller? So long time listener, first time guest.
Do you still listen to the radio?
No. Funny that you say that. No, I honestly don't. It's mate, it's all podcasts and audiobooks nowadays. That's for sure.
Yeah, so they film their show on the radio and then upload it as a podcast.
Yeah.
Genius.
And most radio stations do now because you have to, because you've got so many people who either can't listen to it on the drive home or whenever that show is, but you can get so many more listens if it's a podcast because it's on demand.
Yeah. I guess that's a good way to turn your podcast into a career.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like a radio station's going to pay you.
And from like a commercial standpoint too with a radio station, it's not just the live show either, but then if you've got a podcast and you've got all the advertising and all the commercial aspect that is then on that podcast that you get more listens to kind of forever, then it's an even better deal than it being sort of heard once by one person.
Yeah. I did want to ask you, we're jumping ahead already.
Doesn't take long.
Do you think Spotify is becoming like the place for podcasts? Because I asked you years ago, or maybe a year ago, and you said Apple Podcasts is the place that we get our most listens. But I kind of feel like Spotify are really pushing it now. Like now, because I use Anchor to put mine up, and they're saying, listen, we'll put ads on it for you and we'll pay you if they listen to through Spotify.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's tempting.
Yeah. And yeah, I've definitely changed as well because I basically only use Spotify to listen to podcasts now. And it's probably been that way for 2 years. And the main reason I think is because Spotify have invested heavily in podcasts, whereas Apple really haven't. Like, they've just dropped the ball there. So UI, UX, the ability to share your episode directly to like your Instagram story, for example, like all of that stuff, which is kind of like commonplace these days, that is not easy to do on Apple.
Yeah.
You just go with what works better, like the better experience.
Yeah, it's good. And them getting Joe Rogan is obviously what a lot of people want to emulate.
Well, that's true, yes.
So he's like the face of it, so they've done really well.
It's probably one of Spotify's best ever deals to date.
All right, before we get too deep into it, do you want to tell the locals who they're listening to?
Mate, Anthony Murphy. I am born and bred local, not born in Shepparton, born in Benalla. But yeah, obviously from the Goulburn Valley, the northeast Victoria area, all my life. Love the place, love regional Victoria. And yeah, nowadays I'm a dad, I'm a husband, business owner, and it's all happening.
Yeah. When I very first started my podcast, I went back and listened to a couple of your early episodes, and you had your dad on as one of the early
guests. Yes, I did actually. Yeah, that's going back a long time.
What did your dad do?
So dad owned a business in Benalla, co-owned with my uncle, and that's kind of where I definitely got bitten with the business bug, I suppose. Was definitely sort of always involved, in the business. Started working in it. Part time when I was like 14 or 15 or something like that. Head into dad and do a little bit of part time work. But he worked in it's a food manufacturing company, and there was sort of always something happening, whether it was like on the production floor or driving the forklift or out helping dad in the workshop, that kind of thing. So lots of good memories, and family owned business, and he's now exited that successfully. So he's enjoying retirement.
Yeah. Was he hard to get on the podcast? Was he open to it?
He was pretty open to it, yeah. I'd have to go back and listen. I'm not sure that the conversation sort of flowed all that well, but hey, we did it, so it was good. And it's nice to have that kind of, that piece of media, I suppose, that you kind of always have. Touching on that, one thing that I never got to do was interview my granddad, which would have been awesome. And I was actually planning to do it, because that was when sort of video was becoming very popular, like we're talking, 2013, 14, 15. And I was like, it'd be really good to like interview Granddad, like about his background, his business journey, and all that sort of stuff. And never got around to it, and he passed away not that long after. So missed that opportunity, but it was good to have Dad on, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's part of my sell to get people on the podcast. Like I would have listened to a podcast with my grandma on it 100 times if it was out there.
100%.
Like any part of her journey, like her talking about like her kids and like her grandkids, like
life experiences, like all of their advice. And I think, that's one of the best things about where we're at today with, documenting, lives, podcasts, video, whatever medium it is. It doesn't matter what the medium is, but the fact that there is so much more documentation going on now, because like you said, it would be so cool to be able to, watch a video back of, your granddad or your grandparents or, somebody that you respect and admire from, years gone by, and sort of get a look at what that was like and get their first-hand experiences and their thoughts on it and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Some people shun us putting ourselves out there. Not like us personally, but like us putting content and stuff and like recording a lot of what we're doing in our lives. And
sharing our lives.
Leaving a trail of our journey. But that's in our nature. We've been drawing on cave walls for years.
Humans are storytellers.
So awesome.
It's in our DNA. We all love a good story. We love a yarn, and we've just got so many more opportunities nowadays to be able to do that. So
yeah. So you mentioned when you were growing up, you helped your dad in the manufacturing business.
Yeah.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah, good question. I don't think there was ever kind of any one particular thing. I'm sure, back when I was really young, it was, the typical stuff. But, sort of in those teenage years, I really don't feel like there was any one particular thing. Loved sport. Most people do. And I think that kind of played out because I got into uni, got into health sciences, was aiming to get into like sport and exercise science. And while I was at uni, I still had no real kind of career aspirational goal or anything like that. It was just kind of a case of, love sport, and if I can, put a career together in that's something sort of sport related, whether it's sports management or whatever it might be, at the time I thought that'd be pretty cool. Didn't quite work out that way, but that's the way it goes.
How did it work out?
University dropout.
Was it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, to cut a long story short, what happened was before I got into uni, so those couple of years, sort of 17, 18, was working full-time in Dad's business, got into university, went down to Melbourne and, got into uni, did the first year at Deakin in health sciences, as I said. And then I got a phone call, it's about October, and I got a phone call from Dad, and he's like, business is growing, we need to hire a QA manager for the business, and I wanted to offer you the position before we go and try and find somebody else. I'm like, okay, yeah, awesome, cool. And he said, I'll leave it with you. Thanks, Dad. I spent a couple of weeks thinking about it, and obviously we were basically at the end of the university year, and I was thinking, I had no real direction, and I was like, I know that I like business. I've got an opportunity here to sort of step into a management position at my dad's company, and basically that's what happened. Left uni, went back, worked full time, and spent the next 11 years, working at Murphac.
That's a long time.
It was a long time.
Do you feel like you stayed there too long?
Yes and no. I feel like that sort of decade at Dad's company definitely has helped, get me to where we are today. Like, handover of his definitely has helped. And it again, long story short, I became a dad, and at that point, lots of things change when you become a dad. But I sort of had a real hard look at, living in Shepparton at the time then, and then traveling to Benalla every day. And I was thinking about, I was like, I'm spending like 8 to 9 hours in the car every week just driving back and forward to work. Like, that's a whole day. And I'm like, and I've got my wife and my little son at home now. I'm like, and I'm spending a whole week just traveling in a car. So we tried to work out a situation where I would drop back to like 4 days a week, working in the business, work from home. Ironically, back then, this is 2016, work from home 1 day a week. But anyway, that just wasn't going to work out with where the business is at and, the position that I was in and all that sort of stuff. So I ended up having to make the decision to leave. Very fortunately got a part-time marketing manager's position here in Shepparton with an awesome company. And I also had a couple of clients for AM Digital Consulting, as it was called back then. It wasn't AttentionMedia, and that worked out really well because I ended up being able to move straight out of the family business into a part-time position at a company that was 5 minutes from home. And I also had a few clients of my own sort of social media marketing at the time. So was very fortunate with how that whole transition transpired. But yeah, that's what happened.
What's a QA manager?
Quality assurance.
Yeah.
So essentially, like in that business, it's because they deal with grains and stone ground flours and all that sort of stuff. You're doing all the paperwork, the testing, all that sort of stuff that gets sort of sent off to the customer, who is like Uncle Toby's or Kellogg's or somebody like that, and they need to make sure that everything's ticked off essentially and is food safe and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, so it seems like quite a pivot into what you're doing now. Like
yeah, definitely a different role for sure. At the time that I left Murphac, I had moved into a sales and marketing role. So I'd probably spent about 4 or 5 years in the QA role, then moved into sales and marketing. So I definitely had a couple of years experience in that before I left the company. And then it was really, really fortunate because I was able to, at the time, social media was booming, podcasts were starting to boom, loved everything digital, loved everything marketing, and was able to sort of step out of the family business, which was obviously a really big decision, and straight into a marketing manager's role. So it worked really, really well.
Yeah. And it was a huge positive on the family life.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You got what you wanted in that regard as well.
100%. Yeah, exactly. As tough as it was to kind of like leave the family business, it was the right move, because again, I was 5 minutes from home, and it worked out really, really well.
How do you think social media is evolving? And like, I feel like you kind of seen it a bit before everyone else.
No, I was still late to social media.
Yeah, but like you're like obviously not one of the first people, but like I still feel like even like every year, it's just growing so fast, and it's just so different every single year.
Yeah.
So like if you were doing that in 2016, I think that's
like
podcasts and stuff like that, definitely early.
Yeah, and I suppose like it's funny how it all works out, because I kind of started the podcast because I love podcasts. I was like, hey, it'd be really cool to start my own, and the show originally was around very similar to what we're doing. It's like interviewing young entrepreneurs that I knew, so young people who were kind of doing their own stuff in business. And from that show, I then had people reaching out to me saying, oh, hey, can you help me with our social media? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And that's literally how the business started. Just had people reaching out off the back of the podcast saying, can you help us with this? I was like, yeah, sure, no worries. And it just continued to grow and grow and grow.
So, like the advertising that you do you teach yourself that? I guess you would have
essentially, yeah. Like again, I didn't go and complete a marketing degree or anything like that. I did go to TAFE there for a couple of years. Got an advanced diploma in business management. There was some marketing, units in that, but a lot of it, obviously self-taught, just a pure passion for it, essentially.
Yeah. What do you think the pros and cons are of technology and how it's evolving?
Yeah, that's a big question. There's kind of two parts to that, I think. Technology is not going away. It's rapidly advancing. It's always going to continue on. We're seeing that, now with blockchain and the metaverse and all this sort of stuff. Like it's just going to continue to evolve. So in terms of how we as human beings interact with it, I think it comes down to having some self-awareness and understanding of the pros and cons of it, right? Because if you spend 8 hours a day glued to your phone trolling through Instagram, that's not healthy.
Yeah.
But there are so many positives from social media as well. I mean, I obviously run a business off it. Many people do. People grow their businesses off the back of social media and digital. So there are so many positives, and it's not going away. But it's that piece of, again, just being a human being and being able to understand the cons. Like if you spend too much time glued to a screen, it's not healthy for you. If you consume a lot of blue light before bed, it's going to impact your sleep. So it's kind of understanding the technology in how it impacts you both positively and negatively, and then make your own decisions around, how much, how little, all that sort of stuff.
Will you have rules for your kids around social media?
Yeah, definitely.
Or social media and technology?
Yeah, definitely. It's again, probably two sides to that story as well, because I'm definitely of the opinion that they need to thoroughly understand it and be able to use it. I'm very excited about getting my my son into like coding and all that sort of stuff as well. Just like, again, having those basic skills, which I don't have, but will be, very beneficial sort of as he continues to get older, regardless of what he ends up doing. But yeah, it's again, it's just a self-awareness thing. It's like, it's not necessarily a bad thing unless it's too much. Right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like anything. It's like food, alcohol, whatever it might be. It's everything in moderation, and just making sure that you're in control, essentially.
Yeah. I feel like people turning it into a bigger deal than it should be right now anyway.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's like extreme cases, like you said, but like I don't feel like I think I have a healthy relationship with the technology and how much I use it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always going to kind of like ebb and flow, and things are going to change. But as long as you've got that awareness, and you sort of put some boundaries in place with yourself, you'll be right.
Do you have any self rules for how much you use it? Do you have your notifications turned off? Like what do you
Yeah,
think?
look, all that sort of stuff. And again, like that can be tricky sometimes if you're running a business that's based around digital marketing, and like obviously it is possible, but having all notifications turned off, then obviously potentially there's some things that you need to work out there. But you definitely have to have that healthy balance. And one thing that I always try and do and remind myself is that be a producer over a consumer. And one little rule that I try and stick to, and it hasn't been working lately, but is every time I go to use social media, I have to publish a piece of content before I consume anything.
I love that.
Because what that does is you don't end up just mindlessly scrolling through social. You use it as a tool to help you get forward in whatever way. Like it doesn't have to be business or commercial or anything like that. But if you put a piece of good quality content out into the world that is going to have some value to somebody out there before you go and consume a whole heap of social media, it's going to be more beneficial. So think producer over just full-time consumer.
Let's say somebody comes and talks to you about advertising. Well, how does that work initially? Like if somebody wants help with advertising in business,
yeah,
how does that all unfold?
Yeah, look, that's a big conversation as well. But essentially, whenever somebody comes to us and they want help with social, they want to grow their business, anything like that, the place we start at is the end, essentially. Like, what's the goal? What's the objective? What do you want to achieve? And you can work backwards from there. Because if we're talking about types of content, if we're talking about which platform, do you just go organic? Do you have paid? Like all of those sort of questions are going to come from what do you want to achieve? What's the end goal? What's the North Star? And then we work backwards from there to essentially answer all those questions.
Yeah. So I imagine what most people want is more sales.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you help somebody with that?
So if it's sales, a lot of the time it's also a time thing as well. People just don't have the time to do it, or they don't have the skills. So there's multiple different ways that a social media marketer can help a business. But in terms of actual sales, again, it depends. Do you generate sales through leads? Do you generate sales online through e-commerce? So depending on how that works, obviously there's a few different ways to go about it. But if we're talking like an e-commerce shop, so somebody's got a Shopify store, for example, and they want to drive more sales, it's a case of talking to them about, again, what's the goal? How many sales do you want to make in sort of what period of time? And then work backwards from there. What who is your target audience? Where are you making sales now? Which social media or digital platform are we going to be able to reach your audience on? And then what's the strategy from there around content, paid advertising, all that sort of stuff, and build out that strategy. One thing that we're very big on is that strategy component, right? It's that initial setup, because sort of anybody can put their hand up these days and say, yeah, sure, Harley, I can run your Facebook ads for you. And most people can because it's so accessible. But it's that strategy piece at the very beginning. It's like it's setting out, it's building a plan for success, essentially.
Yeah.
And knowing which buttons to push, which levers to pull, and then executing on that plan. So, yeah.
How would you describe your ideal client?
So our ideal client is actually an established business that is looking to invest in their marketing and drive growth, essentially. So there's a couple of internal KPIs that we have around our ideal client is somebody who will be doing at least $500,000 in rev a year. They have a proven product. They're generating sales already, and then it's a case of they're looking to grow the business. And if they're not utilizing digital or social, or maybe they are, it's just not working very well. It's like, okay, well, how can we improve that and really drive growth in your business? Do
you have any success stories that really stand out?
Yeah, definitely. I think, there's I won't necessarily mention names, but there's a couple of local businesses that we've helped over the year and helped them, hit certain KPIs and targets that, we've set out to achieve. And that's a very good feeling, especially when you're working with, SMEs, like smaller businesses as well. Like, there's a lot on the line. Somebody owns that business. They employ staff. They want to hit particular goals, and when you can help them to achieve that, like it's pretty fulfilling. So that's like from just a commercial standpoint. And then there's another company that we work with that does live events for teenagers, for young boys and girls as well. Help them with mental health and self-awareness and all that sort of stuff. And we run their Facebook advertising to sell tickets to the live events, and that's been very difficult during COVID, but to be able to, again, kind of align yourself with a purpose, essentially, and a brand that's really trying to help people, again, achieving results for that type of a company or a brand is fulfilling as well.
Would you say that's your wife, your business?
Yeah, it's definitely one of. Yeah.
I'm gonna butcher this. Is it
push?
I'm gonna butcher this. The slogan, making small businesses iconic brands.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah, 100%.
And I love that.
100%. So, one of our sayings is like, and it's not our saying, but you need to be seen to sell. And I think in today's day and age, most people can resonate with the fact that if your business or brand isn't online and can't be found digitally, it's going to be hard in most cases for you to really grow that business if you want to. Just simply because we spend so much time online. All of our research is done online. We go to look for directions to the business online. So if you really want to grow a business in today's day and age, you have to have some kind of online presence. You have to be seen. You have to get attention, essentially. And that whole iconic brand piece just goes back to social media, branding, paid advertising, getting attention. Helping businesses become iconic brands. That's the catchphrase, and that's what we try and do day in and day out.
I'm going to ask you a personal question about my business. We've got someone who runs our Google ads, and they seem to do pretty good. And I get the reports back, and it tells me how many people have clicked on it. And it does not seem to make sense. It seems like it's way too high.
Okay.
Like, is that something that you know about that?
Well,
could you justify that to me?
Depends. I mean, why do you say the clicks are too high?
Oh no, I can't remember from the top of my head, but it's like 2,000.
Just seems like a crazy amount.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, there's no way. I couldn't imagine it.
It depends. Like, I mean, we're in a day and age today where with digital marketing, you can essentially get as many clicks as you want. You can get as much traffic as you want. The main thing that we want to look at, and the main thing that we look at, is what's the conversions, what's the sales, what's the revenue. It's like it's those tangible numbers that move the needle in a business. Because you can just set up Google ads and get as many clicks as you want. You can run display ads that get thousands and thousands of impressions a day and get a whole bunch of clicks. But it's obviously the purpose of an ad is to get a click. It's what happens after the click that's the main thing. Yeah. So it's not so much looking at the clicks essentially. It's like, what's the conversion? What's the end goal? And then you can kind of gauge how well your advertising might be working. If you've got 2,000 clicks, how many sales did you get out of that? How many leads did you get out of that? And then you'll have a percentage that you can work on, and it's either going to be good or it's going to be bad or somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I guess it'd be good working with someone like you because you've probably seen other people in the industry that you're in. So you would have something to compare it to. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't really have something to compare my conversion rate to. I'm not a big corporate gym brand. Yeah, yes and no. Like, there's industry standards, but again, like, every business is different. And it really doesn't matter at the end of the day what the industry standards are, because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what do you need to achieve with your Google ads, and are you doing it? Like, are you getting there? So it doesn't really matter,
you have a conversion rate that you need to hit in your business in order to be profitable, in order to drive growth, in order to break even. So they're the metrics that you really need to know, regardless of anything else that happens, whatever the industry conversion rate is. It really doesn't matter. It's like, what does it need to be for your business, and are you hitting it?
Do you think that people who don't want to have a social media presence or don't care about the things we just spoke about shouldn't be in business?
No, I don't think that's the case, because again, it depends who it is. Because like if you're going and you're looking to start a business because you love business or you have a product that you want to sell, etc. and so forth, you don't also have to love marketing. You don't also have to love being in front of a camera. You don't have to love social media. If you're a one-man show and you need to get some marketing done, then it's potentially going to be a lot trickier if you don't love the digital world and you don't love social media. But if you have more than one person, or you can outsource to an agency or something like that, that is the best way to go. Because if you kind of look back at anybody who is running a successful business, we're all trying to be a jack of all trades and do everything, but at some point we have to delegate. At some point we have to bring on team members. At some point we have to find other people who are better at it than what we are in order to get to that next level. So you can be a business owner who really doesn't like social media. The question you need to ask yourself is who. So it's who, not how. A lot of us always spend our time thinking, how can I do this? How can I do that? And this is a saying from one of my mentors and our business advisor is, ask the question who, not how. Because you only have so many hours in a day. You only have so much expertise. And instead of trying to do it all yourself, who else can do it for you?
Yeah, you've definitely done really well at delegating, or it seems that way from the outside.
Try.
Was that a process, or was that easy for you to incorporate into your character?
I don't feel like I'm a control freak or anything like that. I definitely find it fairly easy to delegate and try and find somebody to help, look for help. So yeah, in terms of building out our team over the last couple of years, and we've been extremely fortunate in who we've who's been willing to join the team essentially. Our team is absolutely fantastic. But I definitely sort of haven't had any particular issues in letting things go, because again, for me, sort of, I know where I want to get to, and I'm not going to get there by doing it all myself. Like, it's just not possible. So I have to find who, and that who needs to be able to do it well, and do it, again, maybe another thing that people kind of get caught up in is, I don't want to delegate because I know they're not going to be able to do it as good as I can.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if they can do it 80% as good as you, 70% as good as you, that's good enough. Because otherwise you're just putting a ceiling, a glass ceiling there, and you're not going to be able to crack through it. Like, you have to be able to get help in some way, shape or form, depending on what your objectives are. If you want to be a sole trader, that's awesome. No worries. But if you want to, grow a business, build a team, be a C-suite manager, you're going to have to find people to help you.
That's great advice. I need to take that on board. Do you want to share where you want to get to?
Yeah, look, I mean, I want to, again, I love business, and I want to build something that, has a legacy. That's kind of a word that's being thrown around a lot more these days, is, leaving a legacy, essentially. Like, what did you do in your lifetime? What impact did you have? Who's going to turn up at your funeral, as Gary Vee's always talking about? But yeah, want to build a successful company that people want to work at, and that really helps the people, our customers and our clients. So that's the main focus and the main goal at the moment, is to build a successful company that the people enjoy working at. They get to come into work every day and do what they love to do, and that turns into success for our clients and our partners.
Yeah. Does it feel like that already?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does. And it was interesting. I only sort of thought about it the other day. If I look back sort of 12 to 18 months ago, I had goals set around, particular amounts of revenue, around, raising capital, about expanding the team. Yeah. And then it only kind of just hit me, a week or two ago. I went, well, we've actually ticked off that and that and that and that. And I think that's another thing that we also, we're often really hard on ourselves, and we don't sort of take time to like look back and give ourselves a pat on the back every now and again, because life's just so busy and so hustle. And it really hit me the other day. I was like, wow, I've actually, we have a board in place. We have shareholders. One of my sort of business idols, over the past few years that I've been very invested in is now a part of our company. Like it's just crazy how quickly things sort of change, and you can tick off things that you think are a bit of a stretch, but if you put in the work and you really want to achieve it, it's all possible.
That's pretty cool that your mentor invested in your business. That speaks volumes, I reckon.
Literally, I used to sit there and watch his YouTube content and his videos. This is going back sort of 4 or 5 years before I started the business. And I was like, I want to be like him. I want to own an agency. I want to have a team. And I loved watching that content. And he literally now owns part of the business and sits on our board.
That's great.
It's crazy. It's so good.
Beautiful. I did want to ask you, what are your thoughts on some of the technologies that are evolving, such as crypto?
Mate, I'm very bullish on crypto, pun intended. It's crazy, and I think there's so much happening in the world at the moment, whether it's business and crypto or the pandemic, or there's so much going on. But yeah, crypto really excites me for a lot of reasons. Bitcoin and Ethereum in particular, and obviously there's a few reasons for that. But I think, again, the blockchain technology and all of the fundamentals that crypto are built on are here to stay. It's the Web 3.0. It's not going anywhere. Some of the stats, like crypto is being adopted at twice the speed that the internet was. So when you look at sort of the rate of adoption and then what they call network effects, so the more people that are connected to something, the more value that it has, the more speed that it drives at, and it's just being adopted so quickly. And there's lots of different factors for that. But again, the world is going digital, and currency is now digital, and it's only going in one direction. So yeah, I'm investing. I'm learning. I've again probably done 350 to 400 hours worth of research on Bitcoin and blockchain technology, and it's the way of the future. So my advice is to anybody who's out there is to even if you're skeptical, just do the research, because it gets to a point where, especially I feel like, if you do enough research, you don't need to be sold on it. It's just clear and logical as to why it is a extremely important innovation and medium moving into the future.
Yeah, I love crypto, but I'm going to play devil's advocate to help inform people. Have you ever bought anything with crypto?
NFTs. Yeah.
Good answer.
So
you got me there. There's nothing backing Bitcoin.
No, but there's nothing backing our fiat currency either.
With the government.
Yeah, but what are the government doing to our fiat currency?
I understand. It's crazy. People need to just spend an hour watching videos just to get your toes wet.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where crypto, the technology is driving it's forcing people to investigate and learn more. Just because of the way that it is, because people don't know what it is. Some people are scared of it, some people hate it, some people love it. But the more that you look into it, the more you research it, the fundamental properties as to why it is valuable, and it's only going to continue to increase in value. You can't sort of dismiss it if you do enough research and investigation, and then kind of compare it to what is comparable. If you're comparing fiat currency, the Australian dollar, the US dollar, and what's happening with it in terms of inflation, etc., and so forth, and then you look at something like Bitcoin, which can't be inflated. The value is going to be, it's volatile, it's going to go up and down, but in the long term, it is only going to go up. Then it becomes sort of very black and white as to what options you have and where you want to go with it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
100%. And like, we're not financial advisors. I say that in every video.
Exactly. Very, very true.
So I don't know about this question, but how much would you recommend someone put their portfolio in crypto compared to like shares or houses? Would you go are you saying all in on crypto?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
No. Any decent investor is never going to put all of their eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely not a case of just transfer all of your cash into crypto. You obviously, again, you need to do the research and you need to have a strategy. Like, everything needs to have a strategy behind it. But for me, it's little pieces. It's any kind of surplus cash that I can put into crypto. It's going into it. I'm in the process of switching superannuation into crypto, I've got personal reasons for doing that, but I'm extremely bullish on it, and the way that it is at the moment, I want to be able to invest as much into Bitcoin in particular for the long term, and by long term I mean 20, 30, 40 years, and we're at a really exciting time right now because crypto has been around for over a decade essentially, but we're still at early days, and we're still at the point where they've only just started to create EFTs for institutional money and sovereign funds, and like the billions and trillions of dollars and cash that's just sitting somewhere, and people need to invest it and protect the value of it. We haven't even seen that kind of money flow into it yet. So it's still at the point where it's you and me and a few big people who have lots of cash and they're doing very well in their businesses that have put a lot of money into crypto. And it's still such early days. So now, my only advice is just to do the research and sort of do it now, because there's a sweet spot. It's kind of like Instagram in 2010, right? In 2012.
Yeah.
You used to be able to jump on, put a post out, and you would have thousands of followers in a month's time.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you're losing followers, not gaining followers. It's just because there's such there's a critical mass essentially. So we're kind of at that early social media stage where if you get into it now, there is lots of upside into the future.
Great. Are you taking any profits from what you've invested already, or you just go more?
No, just I'm a Bitcoin holder, long Bitcoin, and again, just based on the fact that I truly believe it's just going to continue to increase exponentially in value. So anything that I can put into it today is, again, it's just part of, I suppose, my investment strategy and wealth creation strategy. I truly believe that it will be exponentially more valuable in 10, 20, 30 years than what it is today. So
yeah, completely agree. Do you have yours on a ledger, or you keep it on the marketplace?
Bit of both.
Yes.
Bit of both.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. I guess what are your thoughts on NFTs? Do you want to explain what they are, just real briefly?
Yeah. So if anybody doesn't understand or hasn't heard of NFT is stands for non-fungible token. So a non-fungible token is essentially, again, it comes back to the blockchain technology. So really, really quickly, if blockchain also doesn't make any sense, blockchain is essentially a whole bunch of smart contracts, digital contracts, that are all put into like a chronological order anytime a transaction is made. So anytime you buy or sell crypto or Bitcoin, essentially you can trace every single transaction right back to the start, when the first transaction was made with Bitcoin. And every 10 minutes, a block of those smart contracts is added to the blockchain. So that's how it gets its name. It's a block of contracts in chronological order of every transaction that's being made. And NFTs are another layer on top of that, essentially. So NFTs these days, people, will mostly recognize, Bored Apes or, Women of the World or CryptoPunks as a JPEG image, essentially. Like it's a digital picture on your computer. But again, it's so much more than that, because that picture comes with that smart contract, which essentially has so many different use cases as well. It's not, I think, again, because we're at such early days with NFTs, and people rightly so are saying, well, how can you pay $1 million for a CryptoPunk, 32-bit image, right? Like it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. It doesn't make sense to me a lot of the time either, but
Well, I guess you're buying the story in that case.
What's that?
You're buying the story in that case, aren't you?
Well, it's like, for me, I think, unless you had that kind of money lying around, like there's definitely going to come a point in time where, CryptoPunks and that type of an NFT are potentially definitely going to slide backwards in value, just because, again, like it just gets to a point of saturation, right? And anybody can create an NFT.
Yeah.
I think the real benefit of NFT technology is going to be in the things of like, when it can be applied to real estate or anything else. Essentially, I heard a great story the other day. Somebody was talking about antique watches. So people who pay ridiculous money for antique watches, there's always been an issue of, how do I know that that's actually authentic, that it's the real deal? And what they're now putting in place is they're coupling that watch with an NFT, which essentially, again, is a digital contract to say that this watch is what it is. And when somebody buys or sells that watch, that NFT goes with it as proof of authenticity, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's one particular use case. Another use case, which people are already talking about and we're probably going to see in the very near future, is like tickets to live events or music festivals and all that sort of stuff. You won't just get a paper ticket, you'll have an NFT, which essentially means that it can't be, people can't copy it or, do anything illegal with it, essentially, because it's a contract, it's a smart contract, it's a digital contract. And you transfer it from one person to another, and it is what it is. So it's that kind of technology, and also being able to like fragmented real estate. So owning a portion of a house, instead of having to go out and buy a whole house, you'll be able to buy a percentage or a portion of a house. That just opens up a whole nother world in terms of like investment in the future. Really exciting stuff.
Are you more bullish on NFTs or crypto?
Crypto.
Crypto and NFTs and all this sort of stuff is the biggest change in generational wealth you've ever seen.
Yeah,
100%.
Like,
I don't personally know, but I read the stories, and me personally, like, have made quite a bit. And now the young people are starting to get the money. And I feel like if anyone wanted to make money, like if I sat at home all day and read up about NFTs and certain cryptos, I feel like I could easily make a full-time wage.
Yes.
Easily.
Yeah. Like it's one of those things. Whether it's online business, whether it's crypto, whether it's NFTs. Like if you sit down and do the research and put in the work, it's more than possible.
Yeah. And the people who are likely to do that are people our age and younger.
True. Yeah, exactly. So that I mean that's why, like I mentioned before, like now's the time to kind of do your research and get serious about this kind of technology, whether it's crypto, Bitcoin, NFTs, blockchain, metaverse, whatever it is. Really start to dive into it as much as you can now, because now's the time where if you get in early enough and you have a good strategy and on all that sort of stuff, there's huge upside.
Yeah.
Huge upside.
I'll just ask one more question about this. Where do you think crypto, NFTs, the metaverse will be in 10 years from now?
Pretty mainstream. Like, we...
do you think we're going to be living in a digital world, or that will be a part of our life?
In 10 years, I think it'll definitely be much more of a thing. And I mean, like, I'm just having a stab in the dark here, but in terms of like spending lots of time or, a greater percentage of your life in a digital universe, I think that's definitely, potentially a couple of decades away. But the technology is also advancing so quickly, and there's so much wealth transfer as well. Like even if we just talk about the metaverse, we're already seeing, plots of land in the metaverse be sold for millions of dollars, or somebody's purchased a super yacht in the metaverse for $600,000, right? So I think there's a really interesting kind of shift going on here, because if you look at Facebook, for example, who have just rebranded their corporate name to Meta and you know, working very, very hard on the metaverse and bringing all that, you know, into reality. there's a few reasons behind that. One, because that's where technology is going. That's sort of the next evolution. Two, because Facebook knows that Facebook, the app, is not going to be around forever, and this is kind of their next big play. And what is going to happen with the metaverse is it's essentially going to be a copy, not a copy, but it's going to be, the world 2.0. You're going to be able to enter the metaverse. You're going to be able to meet friends in the metaverse. You're going to be able to work in the metaverse. You're going to be able to advertise in the metaverse, right? Like the next iteration of Facebook ads is not going to be on your phone in the newsfeed. It's going to be on a billboard or wherever it is in the metaverse, right? Like that's going to be a Facebook ad placement in the future.
Yeah.
So, everything is sort of going that way. And again, like there's so much wealth transfer as well, because whether it's, having some kind of job or, earning an income from something that's involved in the metaverse, in a digital world, like all of those opportunities are coming /here. And again, if you take the time and if you have the interest and you want to be involved, lots of upside.
Does it make you excited or scared?
Bit of both.
Yeah.
Bit of both.
Same.
Bit of both. Like again, somebody who has kids, I'm like, what's it actually going to be like, when they're 15? Like, what is the world going to be like? There was a movie, I can't remember what it was called, but like they literally...
Ready Player One.
Or there's another older one as well, but they're literally just sitting in a chair and they're just plugged into a computer and they literally just go into a digital world for the day and work, and like their physical body's just sitting in a chair. And like that as a thought is a little bit scary, but that's kind of where things are heading in the future as well. So yeah, it's crazy.
Do you try and help your friends like get into this sort of stuff, or have you just given up?
No, definitely. Like I've been talking a lot with family around crypto and Bitcoin and all that sort of stuff, and just sort of pointing them in the right direction. Do your own research, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's I'm always trying to help people, and that's probably something that I want to do a lot more of as well with my own content and stuff like that. I've been very involved in the business over the past couple of years, obviously, but really want to try and do more to share that stuff, because I think if you have some knowledge that you believe is going to be valuable for people, like you kind of have an obligation to share that, I feel, because, and if we take crypto for example, the things that you learn if you do enough research around fiat currency, inflation, everything that's happening there and how it's kind of being devalued, but then that there's something like crypto that you can invest in that is going to hold the value of your money, if not exponentially grow it. You want as many people to know about that as possible. Yeah. So that's definitely something I want to do more of, is have these kind of conversations and share this kind of information as you learn it to try and help other people along the way.
Yeah, people are hesitant still.
Definitely.
Like the large majority of people don't want to buy in.
People were hesitant about the internet. People would say, we're never going to send emails. Who would want to do that? But it happens. It happens.
It definitely does. All right, last question for you, Anthony. Who locally inspires you?
Who locally inspires me? To be honest, and this is not blowing smoke, but it's people like yourself. Like and the reason I say that is because it is people who are doing something to help other people, and they have their own success that comes from that. So I mean, like straight off the top of my head, again, it's business owners. It's people like yourself who have a product, have a service, and you're helping people. Other business owners around Shepparton. I'm thinking of hospitality businesses and people that I know that own hospitality businesses, and how freaking hard the last couple of years would have been for people like that to not only stay in business but also continue to provide employment for people and stuff like that as well. So they're the types of people that inspire me locally. I suppose it's my peer group. It's people that are out there, they're giving it a go, they're helping other people, and
Not picking favourites, but is there someone that you're especially proud of at AttentionMedia?
That's like asking me which of my kids is And the fact that I actually paused there and had a bit of a think about it, I'm probably going to get canned for that. But no, look, I mean, they're all absolutely fantastic, and we've had multiple team members now who have been there for over 12 months, if not a couple of years, and even the new team members that have come on board. That I'm extremely lucky, and I've been saying it to everybody. Really lucked out with who has joined the team, and very, very fortunate because they're driven, they're passionate, they're doing a great job, and they're going to move the business forward. So super proud of the whole team.
Yeah. If somebody wants help with their social media or business, all that sort of stuff, where would they find you?
100%, mate. They will find us attentionmedia.com.au or look up Attention Media on all the socials. Or if you're local, feel free to come down to the office. Love to have a chat. That is, again, helping businesses become iconic brands. That's what we do day in and day out. So if anybody really wants to do that, or they're a bit frustrated with digital marketing, or they want to get to the next level in business, as we say, have a chat and let's see if we're the right agency to partner with you.
Great. Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.